Condolences and tributes are pouring in for former First Lady Barbara Bush. The wife of the nation's 41st president and the mother of the 43rd president passed away at her Houston home last night. She was 92. Members of the public can pay their respects Friday. Her invitation-only funeral is Saturday at St. Martin's Church in Houston. We take a closer look at her legacy and how she is being remembered throughout the morning today.
Federal aviation officials are investigating what caused a plane's engine to explode, killing a passenger. This happened 40 minutes into a Southwest Airlines flight yesterday. The left side engine failed, sending shrapnel into the fuselage, blowing out a window on the Boeing 737. Jennifer Reardon, a mother of two from New Mexico, was killed. Many passengers started fearing the worst, saying their goodbyes to family.
So I spent a lot of my time trying to articulate what I wanted my final words to be.
Paramedics treated 7 people for minor injuries at the airport in Philadelphia. The plane diverted there while flying from New York to Dallas. Now, Southwest has a good safety record, only 17 major accidents since it began flying in 1967. The pilot is being praised for helping prevent a worse tragedy. Tammy Jo Schultz is a Navy veteran and was among the first female fighter jet pilots in the U.S. military.
2 U.S. officials say CIA Director Mike Pompeo recently traveled to North Korea to meet with leader Kim Jong-un. The Washington Post first reported Pompeo's trip, saying it took place over 2 weeks ago during Easter weekend. This comes as the enemy nations prepare for a meeting between President Trump and Kim. That's expected to take place by early June. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders says Trump and Kim have not spoken directly.
Search continues for a Minnesota woman investigators say killed her husband and assumed a new identity. New surveillance video shows Lois Reese driving and walking inside a hotel in Ocala, Florida. It's more than 200 miles from Fort Myers Beach, where Reese was seen befriending a woman at a bar. That woman was Pamela Hutchinson, who deputies say was killed by Reese days later to steal her identity.
It's just evil that flowed through. Because how can you go around killing people for no other good reason other than to keep yourself out of prison?
Reese is also wanted for killing her husband in Blooming Prairie. Several residents there told WCCO they're afraid to talk about the case for fear of their safety.
Country Airlines says it will pay for any additional flights to get passengers home after leaving them stranded in Mexico. The company will also pay for taxis, shuttles, and any reasonable cost required to get customers to and from the airport. This past weekend, Sun Country left hundreds of customers stranded in Mexico after it had to cancel flights due to the blizzard. The airline's call center was overwhelmed and understaffed, and the carrier didn't have a spare plane or crew to send there. Sun Country's CEO acknowledged the company should have sent a rescue flight and that it failed to communicate well with customers. The Minnesota Wild are in a tough spot this morning.
Yep, 1 game away from elimination in the first-round playoff series. Wild fans will be talking about this today. Jets defender Josh Morrissey, you look at that cross-check right to Eric Stahl's jaw.
Ouch.
Officials did not call a penalty there. And then Winnipeg scored just a couple of seconds later. 28 seconds left in the first period. Winnipeg got their first goal. Their other was an empty netter with just 11 seconds left in the game.
It's an emotional game. You know, a guy gets cheap shotted. You know, they did a good job calling that stuff last game, so it eliminated it from the game. And tonight they just let it go. And I mean, you could see the cross checks in front of the net as the game went on just got more and more, and it was a free for all. So, you know, hopefully that's just a cheap play.
Well, my take is it's the same take that everybody in the building saw it as. The refs looked at it and they decided not to call it because we were already on the power play. Cost us the game.
If the Wild were on the power play when that cheap shot happened, the series now goes back to Winnipeg. Game 5 Friday night. Wild still without Zach Parise, who suffered a broken sternum in Game 3.
The last team to enter the NHL becomes the first team to advance to the second round of this year's Stanley Cup playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights completed a 4-game sweep over the LA Kings. The Knights became the second team to win their first 4 playoff games, joining the 1970 Pittsburgh Penguins. Relatively new team. Was this their first season or was that last year?
I think this is their first season, but the NHL, they do expansion different from every other league. So that Vegas team was powered up with good players, unlike most professional sports where you just have garbage players in your first year.
Made it more first year for the fans in Vegas. Well, the Minnesota Timberwolves are gearing up for Game 2 of their playoff series.
On the road tonight against the Houston Rockets. Houston won the first game. Oh, it was a game the Wolves could have swiped.
They were so close.
104-101. So the series comes to Minneapolis starting Saturday, Game 3, and then Game 4 here on Monday.